If you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Hey everybody, it's me, Atlas from Nexus at Night. I'm recording this the Tuesday after BCS 2022 in Anaheim, California. I'm here to do a premium Great Nature deck profile. This one I spent a lot of time working and reworking and testing and getting ready for this tournament. And overall, I ended up going 3-3 before dropping. So 3 wins, then lost 3. You'll find out how those wins and losses happened from the Nexus at Night episode about this, which is releasing, I think, after I drop this. I'm not sure. If this is before it, just wait till Thursday. So welcome to Miss Katie's class. Miss Katie is my fiance. Katie, not the painting. A person named Katie. Katie is a kindergarten teacher. So I thought I would name the deck after her. Because I love her and I'm going to marry her soon. But aside from that, let's get into the list here. So starting off, you have your 4 copies of Bigbelly. Bigbelly's ability, I'm sure you all know if you watched the one in October or just whatever, if you're new here. If something dies by a card ability on your side during each battle phase or end phase, you would draw a card. So this is normally, you may draw a card. So this is normally used to recoup rear guards when they die during the end phase due to normal Great Nature things. But in this deck, I kind of turned it up to 11 because there's a lot of things that you can do, and you'll find out why. The other effect is on Van. When it attacks, counterblast 1, choose one of your 20,000 or greater rear guards and stand it. If you have a grade 3 in your soul, stand all 20,000 or greater rear guards. So this is meant in V to be like, ooh, I can stand 3 things on turn 4. Instead, you are then putting that to use with Hamskay's rival Rocket Pencil Hamadon. So on Vanna Rear, when your other unit is placed on an Excel circle, you can counterblast 1, put a card from your hand into your soul. That unit and this unit get plus 10 until end of turn. And then if you have 2 or more additional rearguard circles, draw a card. So this is meant to turn on Bigbelly's second ability to full on turn 3. Because you can place this, put something on an Excel circle. Excel 2, by the way. You're going into Excel 2 in this version because it allows you to draw, which in Premium you need the extra card. And then what you want to be putting with Rocket Hamadon's ability is a grade 3, because then that turns on the fullest of Bigbelly's abilities. That's kind of literally all it's for. The reason I did this instead of like Tester Fox, as you saw on the last list, or Rotting Usurp Dragon being up here, is that this allows you to have a turn 3 when going first. Great Nature has no early game. Our early game sucks butt. So I decided to lean into that by making our mid game and our late game stronger and just running bigger defense early, which you'll see in a bit here. But Rocket Hamadon turns that Bigbelly attack into like, all right, I'm going to stand 1 thing into, I'm going to stand 2 things, which goes from having 5 attacks to 7 on like a full board, right? Or 6, sorry. If you can make things bigger in different ways, then you can experiment with this further. I considered running the Panther for a similar reason, but because Hamadon buffs himself and the thing you put on the circle, I think that was more worth it than, say, the Panther, for example, that's meant to work with Bigbelly. This also gets you a soul, which Great Nature sucks at, so always good. I know it's so innocuous, but it does so much in the mid game, and then like later game, if you decide to do it, like there was one game where like I called something from hand mid battle phase and then used Rocket Hamadon to make it even bigger. Put in so much work, it did exactly what I wanted it to do, so I'll count that as a win. 2 copies of Amazing Professor Bigbelly. So this is like Crayon Tiger as a grade 3, and the reason that you're running 2 of these is that make 1 rear guard and then restand it a bunch of times isn't quite the strategy anymore in this build. This is nice. In one game, I had to ride this thing because I didn't draw the correct Bigbelly and I didn't find any of my grade 3 searchers, but it's whatever. The other effect is end of battle that it attacks on Rearguard Circle if it's successful. So success is a rearguard hits 20k or greater, or whatever the number is, at any point while that thing is on board. So it has to either itself or see something hit 20k or greater power. You can counterblast, stand something, give it 4k. So the reason you do this instead of Crayon Tiger is A, it's searchable. Great Nature's best thing it's best at is searching grade 3s. So this being searchable in a deck like this, and also this being something that you can call from hand and then not have to have a booster ready for it, is why I run it instead of Crayon Tiger. And also by taking the Crayon Tiger infrastructure out, it allowed me to do more stuff, which you will see now. So 3 copies of Compass Lion. End of your turn, choose something, kill it. It's a 13k butt, so that's what I call the defensive power, the butt, the ass. Compass Lion is the thing you want to ride turn 2 and have them just be like, swing for 10. Oh, all right, 1 to pass, I guess. And then you don't have to do anything. If you want to grade stall your opponent, this is one of the best things to grade stall them on. Later in the game, it's just kind of a 13k beat stick, and that's fine. I had this at 4, but ended up cutting it to 3 because, again, this is a, the other things also kind of fulfill that role of being a big ass, big butt. 4 copies of Candelaria. So this is a Stoicheia card. And as you will notice as this deck continues, it gets closer and closer from being a deck full of animals and like, oh, the furry deck, to becoming lolly girls. So that's fun. But Candelaria's effect is at end phase, you can blow her up and then get 2 plant tokens. It's meant to be used in like Roroa, or you can use it in, Neonectar and whatnot. This works great in this deck because with Bigbelly's effect, when you blow her up for plant tokens, you draw a card because it is retired by an effect during the end phase. So, this is what I leaned into. This is the card that the deck is built around now in the main deck. So you can use her along with, instead of having to have a rear guard and then have a rear guard that retires something in the early game to set off your search, she retires herself. She's the rear guard that's being retired, and she retires herself. Aside from that, this was also great against the Narukami matchup because with her effect, you can put plant tokens in the front row. By doing that, this forces the opponent to not go into Exterminate, which is the stride that's like, all right, give 30k to my front row. Instead, it would force them to go into Stunverse, which I know sounds like a bad thing for you, the player, but as the opponent of the Narukami player, that's the best case scenario. Making them go into Stunverse, and then they go, all right, bind 4 rear guards. They're like, I will bind these 2 tokens. They disappear. Continue, good sir. So, yeah, this is great. You can also call over it, over the plant tokens with your battle phase shenanigans, which I'll get into later. 2 copies of Alania. So this is something that you can call stuff from drop. I didn't use this all that often. I think a couple times it helped me make a board mid-battle phase, but it also just, it goes a little further, right? It's a thing that gets you another thing that gets 5k. You can buff both things with your stride abilities. That's why she's a 2 of. I believe over time she may, she comes and goes, right? Goes up to 3, drop a Compass Lion, put her down to 1, put Compass Lion to 4, stuff like that. The other reason is she's got a big ass. She's a 10k butt. Same thing with Candelaria. So now all but 3 of your grade 2s are 10k base or greater, which means that is easier to defend in the early game when your opponent might be getting saucy. The other thing is Spool Mary. So Spool Mary is a grade 2 that when you attack, if you have a Bigbelly Vanguard, you can give it and your Vanguard plus 10k until end of turn, and then Spool Mary blows herself up. The reason for this is that this is a dope that is free. She does not have to Soul Blast for the 10k. She does not have to Counter Blast for the 10k. Just swing 10-10. It makes the Vanguard a little more threatening, but that's kind of whatever. The other effect is when you ride over her, call it a rear. Great. Extra rear guard that you can then use to bully your opponent. I love this thing a lot. I might end up putting it to 4 and put Alania to 1. Not sure. But this thing came in handy and helped me win a lot of games during the tournament and just in general. So that's the grade 2 lineup. Now for the grade 1s, real quick. Top 5 grade 3 searcher. Used to dig, it's a deck that's made to search grade 3s. This helps you dig for grade 3s. Also, your early game does not matter. So be a 10k shield, search for a thing, be a 13k attacker or booster later. Very flexible. One copy of Diantha. So this is like a grade 1 version of Elenia, where you don't have to Soul Blast for the effect, but your Vanguard has to be grade 3 or greater. Also has 5k shield, so that's why I had it in as a tech. It only came in handy one time, mostly because I only drew it one time against a Jewel Knight player that I ended up decking out against, which, again, watch for the episode to find out what happened there. But yeah, she's really fun to go, all right, call her from hand, call something else. And she's a 13k by herself if you have 2 or more grade 1 or less rear guards, which counts plant tokens. So good. For Rollick, like I said, your early game does not matter. So this helps you be a PG in the early game. A lot of decks will try and put you to like 3 to 4 damage by the time they go into first stride. So this helps them not do that, which means you have to force them into a later game they might not be prepared for. This thing came in handy a lot. There were other times where I drew it late game and then it was a 10k shield, and that's not a big deal. But when your early game doesn't matter, use it for this. So yay for Rollick. 3 copies of Mike Sabra. So in place during your main phase, pick a rear guard. It gets red text when it dies. Grab a grade 3 from your deck. So this is used mostly in the early game. Other times it'll be like, all right, I'm going to call it during main phase, buff it up, and then it'll die in end phase, but then the thing I picked on the other side lets me get a search. And then also it's a 7k that doesn't do anything else. So you can just call over it and it's fine. It did its job. I think I'm upping this to 4 after this tournament. What I probably will do is put the amazing Professor Bigbelly down to 1 and put this up to 4. And the reason for that is Heal Guardian. You cannot get enough Heal Guardians in this deck. Grabbing a trigger out of the deck to be defensive with is something that feels so wrong as a Vanguard player, because you're like, oh, I'm taking a trigger out of my deck. Why would I want to do that? But by doing that, it allows you to G-Guard. It allows you to protect yourself early. And that's mostly it. But that's so important because this is Great Nature. So Mike Saburo has been pulling weight since he came onto campus, and he's probably going to be here for a long time more. Normal V starter. There's your Heal Guardians. In terms of triggers, 4 Stride crit, 2 Soul crit. I mostly just did this because the front, the Stoicheia front, gets an extra shield, which also did come in handy. But as well, you have your rear guards get buffed during the main phase usually, and not during battle phase. So by doing this, you can use this to get over damage on triggers, especially because you might be calling stuff during the battle phase. So yeah, Frenzied Eris at 2. She might go up to 3, but I like having the 2 Soul crit just for the ability to be buffed up, like, all right, plus 10, swing for 14. And then when Vanguard swings, put into Soul, draw, and give Vanguard plus 10, and then call something else. So, it goes up and down. Like, sometimes I'll cut her completely, put the 4 extra crit in. Sometimes I'll cut the pony out and do 4, do rainbow. It depends. There's 3. Draw PG, because I don't really have enough soul to do what's his name, the one that's like after you PG with its Soul Blast, draw, counter charge. So this is just as a 3 of, and then the other one is Sanctitude, because Sanctitude is just too good in premium. You have to run this. This is a staple in premium. If you're switching from V to premium format, check out V to premium transitions. This is one of those cards you're going to have to get for sure, because it's a free PG that gets around pretty much any guard restrict. All right, now for the G zone. So 2 copies of Caladrius. You can flip a card face up. Front row gets 10k. So you call your dudes, flip it, front row gets 10. And then when Caladrius attacks, counterblast, stand something with 30k or more power, and then give it the ability that when it swings again, the opponent has to drop 3 or more cards to guard. So this allows you to put a lot of pressure on early. It's one of the few things you counterblast for, because the only things that counterblast in this deck are Elenia, which doesn't come up that often, Bigbelly and Hamadon, which don't really happen unless you're going first, and this. and I think a couple of G darts. But this is like something that you would use to, all right, I'm going to stand this up, and then I'll use Crayon Tighter to stand it again, and then that Bigbelly to stand it again, and then you've run out of 4 counterblast, which means the opponent can damage deny you. This deck doesn't really suffer against damage denial, which again, you'll learn about why on that episode. I'll link it in the description when it does come out, just so you don't hear me doing this. They're like, where the hell else on the channel is it? No, it'll be down there. Yeah, so the way to do it is go, all right, flip, put like a Spool Mary or the Rocket Hamadon thing to give the thing 10k. So then whatever is on there has plus 20 and then 5k from the Excel circle, which means that you only need a 5k minimum card to hit the magic 30 for Caladrius to restand. Usually the thing you're putting there is Spool Mary, just because it's hitting for 34 and then 44 if you get a trigger and stuff like that. So this can close out game's first stride pretty well. I really liked it a lot. I think it was something that the deck really needed. Then also 2 copies of Battle Earl. So this used to be the deck's first stride, where it was like, all right, front row gets 4k for everything in G zone. Everybody gets on hit draw. Now, originally, the opponent would just be like, all right, okay, they got plus 4k to everything. I'll just block everything. Then everything will die. They'll draw off a Bigbelly, and then I'll kill them next turn. What you're using this for now is if you G-guarded a bunch and then go into this, that's fine. Or use it as your second stride, because then you're giving your front row like plus 28k. Or, sorry, I'm trying to like do my times tables in my head. Plus 16k, stuff like that. And that puts on a lot of pressure, because that can be 1 to 2 more cards for everything. It's just a very good card. Nice 2 of. You don't typically need to go into it more than once, but the ability's there. Then there's Managarm Aurum. So this is the other like most important card in the deck, which is the first effect is you can counterblast 1, mill 4 cards, and then for every normal unit, you can give something plus 10k, and then for every trigger unit, Managarm gets a drive. That's not important. The important thing is the G-Zone effect, which is, while face up in G-Zone, when your Vanguard attacks, you can Soul Blast and call something from hand. So what you do is flip this up with the cost of Caladrius first stride, and then when you swing with your Vanguard, you can then call something else, like Elenia, like Diantha, which then calls something else. And then now your opponent has to deal with a whole new front row. Opponents will typically go, how many attacks do you have left? And when they say that, you have to, you're supposed to be truthful, right? You go, okay, well, I have, this Crayon Tiger here, this Bigbelly here. That means I have 5 more attacks. I have 3 more attacks, whatever. Managarm Aurum, they don't really look there, and you don't have to tell them until the effect happens, because it's over there in the G zone. And I got the drop on a lot of people this way, and I really like doing the effects and the deck this way. A lot of people will just, flip miscellaneous things. I think flipping this as your flip target is a very interesting way to play the deck, and I love doing it this way. So this ended up being the weird linchpin by being a flip target and nothing else. So God bless you, Managarm Aurum. All right. There's Offfonk and Ferniges, which you did not go into them once. They were only flip targets. But Ferniges can get you a bunch of counter charge, soul charge, and draws at the end of the turn. If you put him back in G zone, he does nothing else otherwise. Whatever. Offfonk can prevent stuff from getting blown up. You're supposed to use that against things like Kagero or against Narukami, but it blunts your offensive force, and I didn't really see a need to go into them. I mostly just kept them in there as, what ifs, in case. Like, Ferniges is mostly used for Link Joker, because after everything unlocks, it's just there. So you could then blow it up with Ferniges and then get your draws and counter charges, slow charges. But that never came up, so it's fine. And then now for G-Dart. Kill Timka. Kill Timka allows you to recycle. When it becomes successful, put 4 cards back. So it'll extend your deck like one other turn. You better be winning this turn, or else that's it. That's literally what this is for. I didn't end up going into it. Perhaps I should have, but I'm not sure. So, yeah, that's Kill Timka. Now for the G guards. So getting the ones that kind of don't matter out of the way. You have Sebshet Avil, which can mill and either get 20k shield or be a PG. Almiraj, which is better used in Isabel to do the Denial Griffin combo that Great Nature has, which I check out that video we have about decks that can disrupt. But I don't really see a time where I would really need to do this. This mostly was just used as flip fodder, but it is like a tool that we have, so I just kept it as a one of. Kundalini, who end phase you can or pick something and then end phase it dies and you countercharge one. So with Bigbelly's effect, you then draw a card off that thing. I use this against the guy who tried to damage deny me because I blew up the heal guardian that I called on rear guard to give myself a damage, and then blew it up and then countercharge so I could use that countercharge or counterblast again. So yeah, real solid G guard that serves its purpose. Doesn't get a lot of shield, but it's there. One copy of Sankalpa, who on play, counterblast, pick a rear guard, pick a Vanguard. They get 4k for every open circle. So the goal here is to have like one rear guard, one Vanguard, and then they get plus 20k, and then you draw a card, because if the rear guard gets to 20k or more power after adding all that power to it. So this allows you to just cheese up a big shield for, not a lot of effort. And it's a nice one of. I originally had it as a 2 of, but after switching to the Candelaria thing with the plant tokens, I then had to bring back Ardillo as a 2 of. So Ardillo's effect is when you G-guard with him, pick any number of rear guards. Any. You can pick 0, you can pick infinity. Retire them. And then, if you have 3 or more open rear guard circles, Ardillo gets plus 10k shield. So the idea here is to, after a turn of swinging with your Candelarias, and then blowing them up for plant tokens, and then drawing a card off that, you use Ardillo to then blow up those plant tokens, and then draw cards off of that. So Candelaria goes from a... so she's a +1 by herself. Bigbelly makes that a +2. Ardillo, if you lose the G-guard, that's back to a +1, and then if you blow up the 2 plant tokens, that's a +3, baby. It's a very important card for that specific strategy they were using. You don't really need it more than 2 because you kill them before this becomes a problem, or you deck out in one case. But Ardillo is usually is a 1 of, but in this deck he's a 2 of for sure because he works with that strategy. Lastly, Spangled. This saved my butt a couple times. Throw your hand against the wall to block a guard. Draw the same number of cards that you just guarded with. Do a mulligan, right? Like, all right, I have a bunch of 3s at my hand. Throw it at the wall. Draw them back. So yeah, that was my deck that I took to Springfest. That was Miss Katie's class. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, leave a comment. And I really think I built the deck to the best of my ability. I think Zoa Rhino is out of date if you're watching this now at December 2022. I'll talk about it more on the Nexus at Night episode, but that's kind of my opinion, and this is what I went into, and I really think I did what I could, and I think the deck performed well except for one round. Like, it did what it was supposed to. And I'm proud of it. And I hope you enjoy it too. Enjoy your weird lolly animals. Leave a like, leave a comment. Like I said, I'll see you next time.